Welcome to Real Estate 360 with real estate expert Kenn Renner. Ken's got a special guest, a longtime friend, and a guy he's done a lot of business with over the years. His name is Wes Young. He's the author of Beautiful Savage, an entrepreneur's guide to enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. He's built several companies spanning software, real estate development, and yak farming. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Ken's conversation with Wes Young.
All right. Well, welcome again to Real Estate 360. I'm glad that Sandy relinquished the cockpit here for me to be able to take a chance and interview one of my good friends and longtime associates and colleagues, Wes Young. And so, Wes Young, we've known each other for over 2 decades. We were just talking about
absolutely.
The thing about it is I met you when things were good, and you taught me a very valuable lesson that saved me through the financial crisis of the 2000s and also into this last go around, because we've had our big boom and bust.
Yeah.
And one of the things you talked about was the Joseph strategy. As you know, Joseph in the Bible was the Pharaoh's first man. He was basically the manager, prime minister of the whole.
Right.
And he said, the story goes that you're going to store your money away during good times, and you're going to release it because everybody else is going to be selling at that time.
That's right.
And so you set me up through your company, was able to store up money every month while things were good. And when things got bad, I was able to pull that back out and be able to prosper. So thank you for getting me through and not having a bankruptcy.
Yeah, brother. Well, hey, man, you did the work. I just pointed you in the right direction. And if the work's got to be done, right? We've all read a book or gone to a podcast and heard great ideas, but we often need to be reminded more than we need to be instructed. And you were instructed enough, but you also reminded yourself enough, and you've seen the fruits of that labor. So good job on you.
Well, it was your advice, and it was hard to set aside $6,000 a month for 4 or 5 years. But gosh, thank God you did.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to be talking to you about your new book here, Beautiful Savage. And so I love the name. And just want to give me a little bit background of what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. So Beautiful Savage, an entrepreneur's guide to enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. And when you think about it, here's kind of the thing in all of us, anybody listening that's an entrepreneur, anybody watching, we have this thing. And most of the time we go through life in this kind of mindset where sometimes we feel like we should apologize for it. Sometimes we feel like maybe I should relax and rest. But we have a gap. Ken, we have a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And the gap between where we are and where we want to be never goes away. It actually just moves. And when it's healthy, it's one of the most beautiful things about people. Because when you have this big ambition, like most entrepreneurs, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a striver. I mean, you're not tuning in and going, I don't have anything else to do today. It's like you're in the middle of your day. You're like, I want to listen, or you're at the gym in the morning or sometime at night. Yeah. Because you want to get better. And all of us want today to be better than yesterday and tomorrow to be way better than today. And that's where progress comes from. It's where faith lives. Faith is the substance of things we're hoping for, the evidence of things we've not yet seen. It's actually what gives us, Ken, the energy to do hard things today that we normally wouldn't do. We don't trade what we want ultimately for what we can have immediately. And that's why I love when it's healthy. It's a beautiful thing about people because it's where all progress comes from.
I know. Tell me about that healthy perspective when it comes to striving, because I was just telling you before the show that I was back in strive mode, and I had to repent for that, because it was like what happens is that when faith is that position where you from where you want to where you want to go, but if you knew how hard it was, if you knew everything that you had to do, you wouldn't have done it. So we did it through faith. It skips over the how. Yeah,
no, totally. When it comes to ambition in of itself, when it's not healthy, let me talk about that for a second. Okay. So when it's not healthy, it can be unhealthy in a couple different ways generally. One is when you are entrepreneurial minded, you are so focused on where you want to go. Oftentimes you don't enjoy where you are on your way to where you're going. You don't even celebrate the wins, because most people listening, they have stuff in their life right now, Ken, that they once prayed for, they wished for, they made it happen. Yep. The issue is we're so already on to the next thing that we don't really have a grateful condition. And one of the things we always say with a Beautiful Savage, they have a big ambition and a grateful condition. Mm-hmm. And there's practices and things we can talk about that keep you in that spot, because look, you're going to be in your gap for the rest of your life. You will be in the middle of once you hit that piece of success, that next big thing, that milestone, then you're like, now where are we going? What's over there? And that's not bad, because contentment has nothing to do with the absence of ambition. And I see, as you know, I share this a lot of times at churches and things like that, as well as business leadership conferences. Don't get this question a lot at the leadership conferences, but I get it at churches. Well, I thought we were supposed to be content with what we have. and I'll often say, hey, look, faith is the substance of things we're hoping for, evidence of things not yet seen. So you can have both. It's not a trade-off. They're both fuels, right? They're fuels that not make me trade the immediate, or the ultimate for the immediate. It is the ambition side. The grateful condition side, because that's what a beautiful savage has, is both of those. In that when you're unhealthy, you often lack that grateful condition. That's that side where you are so regularly grateful for where you are on your way to where you're going. It's an additive. It's like if people put additives in fuel to make things work better. The same thing with people. We need both the sides of the equation, because you will accomplish a lot. You will get a lot done, but you might hate it. And your family's like, it's never enough for him. He's not happy with where he is. And happiness, a big part of it. Yes, you need to overcome. You need to hit milestones. But at the same time, you need to celebrate those that you've hit, but not be a passive person about it. Not go, well, here I am. This is all I'm ever going to do. No, you need to go after things. But that balance is really, really interesting. And Ken, this is one that I was thinking about a lot. The other way I see it get unhealthy is, what's your ambition about? Because if your ambition is like just to make money, and don't get me wrong, that is a part of my ambition that is in there, right? Everybody wants to make money and do a lot of cool stuff. But if it's all about that, if it's not connected to a deeper purpose, if it's not work that matters to others, if it's not about family and friends and the people that you get the opportunity to serve and doing whatever it is that you've built, whatever it is you do, it's a dirty fuel, and you'll hit the milestones, you'll get a lot done, but you won't be happy.
Yeah, gratefulness is that is the juice, because every morning, and it's a practice too, because you can get out of the habit of appreciating what you've got, the gifts you've been given. And you talked about that. You focus on the 3 or 4%. That's not quite there yet. When 95% of your life is an amazing story, but us entrepreneurs are like, but that 5% is still getting me.
Yeah,
that's the gap, right?
Yeah, totally right. Sheryl Crow has a great song where she talks about, it's not having what you want or getting what you want, it's wanting what you've got. That's partially true. I agree with that a little bit. Is you need to be happy. You need to celebrate where you are, what you have, that you've been gifted and accomplished. And that's the deal. And again, if you guys are listening to the show, you already have this. You probably need to work more on the grateful condition side than this, but you want to have a direction that you're going that's big, that lights you up, that's so exciting and so fiery, you just can't wait to get up in the morning to do it. But boy, you better also count your blessings. You better also marinate in the good that's been there.
Absolutely. Funny thing, I think you told me about the guy who had his jet on his little model, like Sandy has his Ferrari here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and he says, what was he? He's like, this is a really nice Gulfstream or whatever. It's like, but what do you say?
Oh, yeah. But the one I really want, and he pulls the computer around, and it's like this 3 times as big a jet. And he's like, listen, I remember praying for this and wanting to get this jet, and man, I'm so happy I have it. But it doesn't quench the fire in me to want to build it up a little bigger, a little of what I think would be a version of better.
Right.
And I think that's true of all of us. To deny that is to deny something that makes us beautifully unique and the beautiful part of people, because all progress comes from people that said, there's better out there. I'm going to go after it and I'm going to get it. But you can be the type of person, Ken, that's so focused there that you don't celebrate where you are and your way to where you're going, but you don't have to choose. You can have both. They're guardrails like that keep you from falling in the ditch of passivity, or the ditch of like uber super driver aggression and not enjoy. Neither one is a great life. Right. Both together are wonderful.
Okay, explain that.
Yeah. So when you have a big ambition and you've got a grateful condition, everything fires. You have the right fuel to do the things you need to do. You're both grateful, and you've been around these people, and I have too, that just have such a gratitude. I think about my dad. He's like one of the most grateful people I know. He's grateful for everything. Like you walk out, isn't it great out there outside today? And it could be 20 degrees. He's like, yeah, we rarely get these cold fronts coming through like this. Yeah. It could also be 100. And we get a lot of those days here in Texas, you know?
Yes, we do.
And he's like, isn't it great that we experience the fluctuation in temperature? We get to get out there. So whatever it is, he's chosen a pattern of gratitude. Right. I love what Tony Robbins talks about in this, about there's pattern identification, there's pattern application, and then pattern creation. And they're like the three greatest skills that he said, if I could teach my kids anything, it would be these three things. Well, most people don't understand. If you see someone living an extraordinary life, they seem happy, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff, and you're like, I'd kind of like that experience, that outcome.
Right.
Well, then what patterns are they following every day? Because everybody's following a pattern, whether they've identified it as that or not. And you can follow them around. They probably teach a class on it. You know, some of them. Tony certainly does. Yeah. And then you go, okay, that's the pattern. Then pattern application. That's the harder one, because we've all, again, gone to a seminar, read a book, listened to a podcast like this, and go, that's what I want. That's what I wanted. I love that pattern. And then a year later, we're sitting back there and we're going, oh, that was a great idea. I didn't do any of it, right? I didn't apply the pattern. And I think they don't have a pattern for pattern application. And that's some of the things that we talk about in the book too, is like, what is your pattern for not just making these ideas that were really cool that you heard, but actually you use them you identified it and you applied it in a way that it changed your life and changed other people's lives around you.
So one of the things that I saw in your notes here was dancing with resistance. What's that all about?
Yeah, man. So the full premise behind the book is a beautiful savage has a big ambition and a grateful condition and a savage persistence. And I'll talk about that word in a second. Savage persistence to dance with the resistance between the life they're living and the unlived life within them. One of my favorite books of all time, and my favorite quote in any book of all time, is by a guy named Stephen Pressfield. He wrote The War of Art. And he says, most of us live two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. And between those two stands resistance. So when it comes to dancing with resistance, there are at least three flavors, and maybe more, right? But at least three. And they are fear, number one. We can dive into each one of these if you want. Fatigue, that's another big one. And then arrogance. And all three will show up in your life. If you are moving and getting things done, these three will show up. There's zero doubt. You want to dive into them?
Yeah, I do, because it's kind of also would like to share it with my significant other, my spouse, Michelle, because she can say, "Hey, you're living in a little bit of fear," or "Hey, this is really fatiguing you. You're striving." Yeah, and I was like, and then arrogance. I like to call it a little more exceeding confidence. But no,
that's right. That's like fights with your spouse. It's a marital adjustment session.
Oh,
that's what we call it.
So, yeah, right. Yeah. So go into each one of those, because those are big stones that can trip people up.
Well, let's talk about fear first, because this is a big one. So I don't even know where this came from, but I love it. Mm-hmm. I have it written on my computer, on a sticky note that sits on my computer. I move it around all the time to remind myself of it. Is that while different isn't always better, better is always different. You can't have better without different. You can have same, you can have worse. It's the first part of that statement that gets us though, Ken, because different isn't always better. And you could tell a story about something new you tried and your life didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It didn't stay the same. It got worse. Because if you're trying stuff, that's going to happen. And I think there's a couple manifests of this. So fear, two of the best acronyms I've ever heard for it, is you can face everything and run, or you can face everything and rise. So here's the thing. Fear is a really useful tool. Mm-hmm. You will experience the emotion of fear, but you don't have to take on the identity of being afraid. Very different things. Because someone who takes on the identity of being afraid, they end up not doing that thing. They end up not trying that thing, taking that trip, doing this new thing. And so they're stuck in the normal. That's where they live. And they wonder why life's not getting better. Well, it's because you have taken on the identity of being afraid. And I can give you lots of examples on this, but that person who chooses that road is never going to accomplish the things they're capable of. When I moved to Austin, now, I guess it was 2001, and I was 23-ish years old, maybe 22. And I didn't know anybody here, had no community, no relationships, but I had an opportunity. And the opportunity, I was in the electrical contracting business at the time. Right. And this was a third generation owned family company. And I thought this could be a good step forward for me. But what are the issues? What was I afraid of? And the emotion of fear was telling me this. The emotion of fear was saying, but you don't know anybody there. And what if you get there and it's not that good? And and real things, it's not that you don't travel the path. Like one of the things, people often call me an optimist, and I say, yeah, but I'm a grounded optimist. I know what could go wrong. I dance with the fear, right? It's like we always say, it's like fear is like you're bringing your crazy uncle along on a road trip. You bring him on the trip, you just don't let him drive, like, because fear doesn't drive well. It's going to drive you in the ditch of passivity. It's going to drive you in the ditch of what does Joyce Meyer say all the time? Fear's like sitting in a rocking chair. Gives you something to do, doesn't take you anywhere. And so I remember coming to Austin, and had I not done that, I would have never met my wife, Jamie, who, we now have 2 great kids. They're in college. We celebrated 24 years together. I would have never found a great financial advisor that ultimately became my financial advisor and really good friend that said, hey, Wes, you'd be really good at this. You should think about this. So you have a unique bend on this. And today I wouldn't have a multi-million-dollar company that's all across the country that serves entrepreneurs because I would have faced everything and ran. Instead, I faced everything and rise to it. I said, in spite of that, we're going to move forward with it.
It's a fight or flight. And so
totally.
Fight or flight, see, they give you that courage. I'm going to bust through it. Or flight. It's time to run.
Yeah. Or the guy you don't want with you also is like, you don't want the passive person that's always like, well, here's all the reasons this won't work, right? Well, here's all the reasons this is not going to be good. But you also don't want the guy that's like, it's just going to work out, the cheerleader. And you're like, have you thought about all the things that could go wrong here? Let's ground those. We will do it anyway. It is one of the greatest virtues is courage in spite of all the stuff that could go wrong. And then you got to ground it, man. I think about this a lot, and I've seen you do this many, many times in your life. Yes, this might not work, or it might not work yet, because maybe I need to learn some lessons to make it work well. And we certainly could do like 8 shows on that alone.
Oh yeah, sure.
But you say, but if it goes terribly wrong, the worst possible outcome, is it recoverable? And honestly, most guys listening, most of you have something you want to do right now. You've thought about it. You really have grounded it, and you know what it could lead to if it works. You also have thought about, well, if it doesn't, but honestly, if it doesn't, is it really so catastrophic it's so unrecoverable? And most of the time, the answer to that's no. No. In fact, I may learn some things that I needed to develop the next best version of who I need to become to get the thing I want ultimately.
Yeah. How does that also, when you're striving, how does it lead to fatigue? Because
fatigue, man, this is the entrepreneur's paradox. We go to the seminar, we read the book, we think, man, I want that thing. I'm willing to do that thing. It will change my life. Then we step back into our world. And listen, all of us have a normal, and a normal is your current way of making progress. And it's led you to your current level of success. And listen, again, if you're listening, you have had success. You've done some cool stuff. Your life is probably really cool and good in a lot of ways. And if you mess with the secret sauce, it could get worse, yes, but you've overcome that. You've said, hey, no, I'm going to do it anyway. I want to do this. But you have this normal that you can fill your day up with already without doing any new at all. And I think the crazy part is you've heard me say this a million times, Ken, as my friend for a couple decades now, we're all going to run out of time before we run out of all the ideas and opportunities we could go pursue. And money too, by the way, both of those. So you could fill up your day doing the things you always do and not get to anything new, because new, by definition, it's new, right? So you've not done it before, and a couple things occur. One is you're probably going to be bad at it at first. I mean, you think about the first time you did a podcast or a talk, or Jamie found a old tape or old VC. It was like when you still had
VHS.
The VHS recorded. It wasn't quite VHS. It was it was gone a little digital, but she found this and played it for the kids. Yeah. Like last year at Christmas, and I was like, oh my gosh, we should burn it. We should burn it, because it was me trying to give a talk. It was so terrible. It was so bad. But that was what was required along the pathway. So here's the way fatigue works is, okay, I want to do this thing. I feel a little bit like I'm cheating on the real work that's led me to this other outcome. But if you don't have the patterns, we go back to patterns. pattern identification, we all, if you're listening, you're trying that right now. Pattern application. A pattern of application for new requires you, absolutely requires you to have some of your best peak performance time. For me, that's generally going to be early in the morning. I'm high energy. I've done several things up to that point. You start, but it will be the hardest thing in the world for you to do this thing that's not added to the bottom line. It's never paid for your mortgage. It's never sent your kids to college because it's new, and try and dedicate time that you could be spending on your normal that's made you money and decide to do it anyway because it's a lifestyle. It's why New Year's resolutions don't work.
Right.
Right.
What about arrogance?
Yeah, arrogance is a funny one, man. It sneaks up on you. So my dad was an operations director for a large franchise of Blockbuster Videos. And so they were private, they were bought, and he would go up and he was on the board of directors for the board of directors, the actual board, as a franchisee representative. And I remember I was out of the house, I went and met with my dad, and I was like, hey, how's work going? He goes, great, we've had our biggest year ever, but our days are numbered. I said, why? And what he ended up telling me, Ken, was what is ultimately now lore, is basically how arrogant they'd become about what they were and what they built. He said, Wes, we have an opportunity, and here was the story that it actually was. Netflix, who's a little company, I don't know if you've heard of them, Ken, but they went to Blockbuster when they were had 141,000 subscribers exactly, because they took it in there, and they met with the board and said, hey, we want to run your online division. Right now, what we're doing is delivering DVDs in the mail, the U.S. postal system, to people. We think this is going to be the next big thing. We think it's a great combo model. We'll run that. We'll take Blockbuster's name. And Blockbuster said, well, how much would we have to pay? And they said $50 million. Now, that sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. Keep in mind, Blockbuster was a $6 billion organization at the time. It's a rounding error, right, for experiments. And they flatly declined. They kind of laughed him out of the room. They would say it's the worst day of our lives. And then later they said, boy, this is the best day of our lives. Because then 10 years later, Blockbuster was bankrupt. And Netflix was at that point like a $9.6 billion company. Today, it's like over $500 billion company. So arrogance, when you say I'm the smartest guy in the room, I know it all, look at what I've built, you really need to watch out.
Well, you're in the wrong room then.
Yeah, that's right. Get in a different room.
Yeah, get in a
Love
different
that,
room.
man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I like to hang around with you, forward-thinking people like you that are creative and always trying to create something good for our clients and for society. And that's been your heart, and that's why you've done so well with being able to speak in front of thousands of people, train hundreds and hundreds of life insurance agents, and some of the other people that you've spoken to. Now you're expanding out. What other companies have you been? Types of companies have you been speaking?
Yeah, so we really focus for advisors on going from transactional to transformational.
Yeah, I love that.
So because most people come in our industry and it's let me do a lot of work for free for the privilege of placing a product or managing your money. And we want to be known for people that just have such good advice. You are curators of great ideas. That people just want you on the team. So we charge fees for what we do, and then we still will manage a lot of money. Put stuff in place that they need. But we're so focused on what value. Like our win, Ken, is how do we help people increase their profitability and quality of life? How do we help them live a life they don't want to retire from?
Absolutely.
And that is our juice. That's what lights me up every day. That's what I get so excited. That's why I love working with entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I changed my thoughts about the transactional going into transformational. Is that it's an amazing spot to be in, because like for real estate, I started realizing that we are actually destiny changers.
Yeah.
Because we're going through some of the biggest transitions in their life, and we're helping transform them from one way or the other, whether they're buying up or buying down or whatever. And I would say that you are a destiny changer. And so I really appreciate you taking your time. So, and coming down here and giving us some really great points. Guys, the book is Beautiful Savage, and it's out on Amazon.
And you could pre-buy right now,
okay,
which I would love you to do.
Encourage you to.
Yeah,
and so
the release is on March 30th, and soon you'll be able to also buy the audiobook and the paperback. Right now it's on Kindle, but everybody has free access to a Kindle. So love you guys to get it, and we're super excited about it.
All right, thanks. That's their interview with Wes Young with Austin Real Estate 360. So we're glad to have you on board. Get with Wes's book, and we'll see you at the top, as Zig would say.
Hey, yeah.